Hello, my name is Grin, and this is my beard. I've got a big crumb in my beard today that I'm going to pull out and talk to you about. I did a video about I'm a satisfied person who came to Japan, and I'm successful, and I live in Japan. And someone hello DM, thanks for making a comment on my video. He actually asked me a great question, and I think I need to talk about it because I need to get it off of my chest and out of my head and into words. He asks, What is it exactly that you did or do? What is it exactly that you do? I've lived in Japan. I've lived in Japan, and when I was there, it seemed impossible to just show up with no job, no money, and without a sponsor and stay and work. How did you do that? I understand leaving the country after 90 days to reset your visitor visa, but how did you find someone to sponsor you so that you could legally live and work in Japan? Good question. Good question. So, let's go back to 2006 because this is a while ago. Now, I didn't just come to Japan recently. I've been in Japan for a decade and a half or more. Yeah, 2 decades, almost 2 decades. So, 2006, I was, I was going to college at Arizona State University. I was, what do you want to call it, enrolled at Arizona State University, and I had an opportunity when I was getting my loans. I also got a loan for expenses, and the expenses didn't have any stipulations, like just you can use it for whatever expenses you need. That's the kind of loan it was. And so I was like, wow, perfect time to go on a sabbatical. I've wanted to go to Japan and see this different culture for a very long time. So I think it's the perfect time to do it. And the amount was $5,000. I wasn't planning on spending $5,000, but I had $5,000 to spend. And I started searching different like housing situations in Japan, and I came across this person who had a share house, and she was like the what do I call it, like a share house. So she was this lady who had different apartments in around Tokyo, actually in Tokorozawa, and she was renting them out to people who wanted to come and visit Japan. Of course, I had roommates. For a little while, she was my roommate, one of my roommates, and I had two other roommates when I was staying at her place. And then I ended up going into another place. But so first thing I went there, I was a writer. I am a writer, but I was kind of getting paid to do it then. It was during the time of blogs and whatnot, and I was a writer on a website called Helium, and there were businesses and magazines and whatnot that needed articles and stories and stuff like that, and it was kind of like a competition writing thing where you would they would say what they want, and then you would write something, and if they chose you, then they would pay you to publish your writing thing. So I was doing that, and it wasn't too bad. I was making some money, and I was doing blogging as well, and that was actually bringing in some money from AdSense and stuff like that. So I thought, well, that'll be my pretense of going to Japan, write about a trip. I wanted to actually hitchhike from Tokyo to uh, Sh- from Tokyo to Shikoku. Shikoku. Now on Shikoku, I was going to do the 88 temple pilgrimage, Kobo Daishi 88 temple pilgrimage, and go to all the different temples and stamp my book and whatnot, and hitchhike my way through the whole thing. I never actually got around to doing that. I did walk, believe it or not, from uh, Ikebukuro in Tokyo up to Tokorozawa because I knew this trip that I was going to be taking, the 88 temple pilgrimage, is a really really long walk. It's quite a hike. So I wanted to, have some practice for that. When I first came to Japan, uh, I wa- I okay, I didn't first walk that. The person that was my host mother, I guess you could say, she was like, she had an English school, and she was like, "Hey, your degree is in English, so why don't you try teaching some English, and I'll help pay you some stuff and whatnot." So I was like, "No, I mean, I don't have a work visa." And she's like, "Oh, don't worry about it. It's not a lot of money, and it's not a full time job or anything like that. It's just here and there." I was like, "Oh, okay," So I did some teaching for her, taught some of her friends and customers, and she was like, "You're a really good English teacher. Why don't you, do that? Why don't you become an English teacher?" I'm like, "Well, I mean, basically she was like, "You're already in Japan and you can do this job and you're not bad at it. So why don't you do it?" I wanted to go back to college. I wanted to go get my degree in anthropological sciences. I've already got my base degree in English, so it's like I wanted to finish off and go further. But I was like, okay. Here's the thing: if you're gonna come to Japan and you don't have a bachelor's degree, it's very, very unlikely that you will get a visa, a work visa, or a sponsorship. Even they don't want to sponsor you unless you at least have a bachelor's degree in something. It can be anything. When I came, it was 2006, and I didn't have a bachelor's degree yet. I had an associate's degree. Uh, I studied English, but it's basically an associate's degree in science. So, uh, how did I get it? All I can say is I was lucky, and I had a do or die attitude. And I'm not saying that anybody should do that. You shouldn't do that. Basically, I came to Japan and I was like, okay, I'm going to be successful or I'm going to die trying. And I came close to it. So I didn't die. So I'm here and I became successful. Good. So how did I do that? I searched for different companies. I just kept looking through all the advertisements and whatnot until I first found one company was like, "Oh yeah, we think we can do it," and turns out no, since you don't have a bachelor's degree, you have an associate's degree. It's not we are not capable of doing it. And then I just kept looking until I did find a company that was willing to sponsor my visa. And since the first company couldn't do it, I was like, "Are you sure?" Because I don't have a bachelor's degree; I have an associate's degree. And they're like, "Yeah, we can do this. We can do this. We like what you're going to bring to the table, and we think that you'd be a valuable member of our team." So that was kind of serendipitous, but it was right at the end of my visitor's visa, so my tourist visa. So I had to go leave the country and get another tourist visa so that I could change it over, something like that. And so I got a trip to uh, Korea, South Korea, and I stayed there for 3 days. And here's the thing: I bought the ticket to South Korea and back to Japan, but they wouldn't let me on the plane to come to Japan because I didn't have a return ticket and I didn't have a visa. So the only way you can come to Japan is if you have both a come ticket and a return ticket. Otherwise, they won't even let you on the plane. So they wouldn't let me on the plane. I had about, I don't know, 15 minutes to rush downstairs of Incheon Airport and buy a return ticket so that I could get on the plane to Japan. And I managed to do it. I had enough money to buy it, but that was pretty much all my money, and I could get a refund, but only not the full amount. And so it was really difficult. So when I finally came to Japan and I had to, tell them, I'm here because I'm a writer, which I didn't lie about anything. I am a writer, and I was still writing my stories that I needed to publish. And so they managed, they let me in for another 3 months on a tourist visa. And then I thought I was going to have to go back to the States again because during that time before that, you had to leave with your visa exchange, go to the embassy, change your visa, and then come back to Japan. But that year they had changed it. And so since I already was there, I could just change my visa over. And I was just so sweating bullets because after buying that South Korea ticket, I didn't have enough money to fly back to the States or anywhere else. I figured I'd probably just fly back to South Korea again, go to the embassy there and change it over. But luckily I didn't have to. So I got this company who sponsored me, and it was accepted, and I did get to change my visa over to a instructor visa. I was an instructor because I had experience as a teacher in the States. I was tutoring people, and I had my own tutoring service, so I had some experience. And plus, I was a writer, and I was accomplished. I had published articles and whatnot, and so that was how I got through. If I didn't have some sort of accomplishment, they wouldn't have let me in. They wouldn't let me stay with just an associate's degree. I had started my own company when I was like 16, which ended up failing, but it's like I've got business experience. I had published stories and articles in various magazines and online and whatnot, and so that helped me out. And plus, my associate's degree was in English, which is what I was going for to teach. So they managed to convince people, who, I don't know how they did it, that this person was a valuable teacher and that my skills were adequate. Thank you. Thank you very much for doing that. I'd like to mention the name of the company, but I don't think I should. So I got my visa, and I ended up having to leave Tokorozawa, where I was staying, and go to Chiba, Kisarazu. I lived in Kisarazu for a year, and I taught at 2 different schools. And it wasn't what I was expecting. The small jobs that I was doing was just like one-on-one types of English lessons before that, and then every now and then I would have a group lesson that I would do for my host mother, and wasn't a big thing. But this was different. I'm the English teacher at this school, and I go there every day to be the English teacher at this school, and that was quite the challenge, because here I am in my early 20s and I don't know anything. I think I know stuff, but I don't know anything, and how to deal with kids and whatnot, and how to teach. I have some experience, but it doesn't really prepare you for trying to teach people who have no understanding of your language, to teach them to speak your language. It's quite the challenge. And then there's the internal politics, the school politics, the teachers having their own prejudices and stuff like that. And my tanto, the person who was supposed to be my person who was supposed to be taking care of me, she basically hated my guts. I don't know what I did to make her hate me so much. She didn't say, but what ended up happening is she just started ignoring me and just like not communicating with me at all about anything. I'd be in the teacher's room, and all of a sudden someone would come in. Hey, Gren, you got a lesson. Are you prepared? I'm like, I didn't even know about this lesson. Which class am I going to? What I don't know. Yeah, sure. And I just grab my stuff and go up there, and it's like, I don't know what we're doing, but we're going to do it. And so that was really difficult, but I guess that's how they managed to get me in this position, because even with no preparation, I was able to create a lesson that was no preparation at all. I was able to create a lesson that was interesting, informative, and entertaining, and the kids actually gathered something out of it, because they were able to in the end, they were able to pass their tests. So, got lucky again, I guess. Just spur of the moment. That's how it is. That's how it's always been. It's always been like do or die. For my since I came to Japan, everything's been do or die. Either I succeed or I die trying. And so that happened. And where do you go from there? Now, I really liked that company, and I would have stayed with them for another year, but I just didn't want to be in Kisarazu. I didn't want to be in Chiba. I mean, I liked the people that I was with, and I made some great friends, met a lot of yakuza. They see Kisarazu is just it's on the other side of the bay from Tokyo in Chiba, and there's an aqua line that goes underneath the ocean to get from Tokyo to Chiba. And so all the Yakuza would do their business in Tokyo and live in Kisarazu. Met a lot of Yakuza. And they like to make the foreigner drink. They were never bad to me. They were never mean. They were never disrespectful. But then again, I wasn't disrespectful to them. And of course, they would buy me drinks and whatnot. So it's like, as a show of respect in return, I would be their white monkey to entertain their group while they were buying me drinks and being nice. So why not? That's what they want. They want to see the white monkey sing a song or talk about things in Japan that they're not familiar with, or just say words in English because they want to hear people speaking good pronunciation in English. It's just the way it was. And so after that, I got another job. Okay, so I was searching for a job, and I finally found another company. It took a while, but I did find another company, but they wanted me to move to Gunma. And Gunma's further away, so I wanted to go back to Tokorozawa, but so Tokorozawa is in Saitama, and just north of Saitama is Gunma. And I'm like, well, it's not terrible. And at this time, I had a girlfriend in in that area, in Tokorozawa, but she and I, we decided we are gonna go our separate ways. She wanted to go back to Vancouver, where she had been living for ages, and I still wanted to stay in Japan and do. Anyways, moving on from that, I found another girlfriend who lived in Tokyo, and being in Gunma, it was quite a drive, but it wasn't so bad. Excuse me. In Gunma, Gunma was tough. I was working for this company called, I don't even want to say the name. No, it's probably not here anymore. The owner, sadly, died of cancer, I believe. And it was called RCS. And a lot of bad things happened when I was working for this company. A lot of misunderstandings or miscommunications, or they didn't tell me this or they didn't tell me that, and then I had to suddenly do this or suddenly do that. And so working at the schools was fine. I worked at 4 different schools. One of the schools, the what do we call it? The Kocho sensei just hated my guts, and I have no idea why. She wouldn't tell me. She wouldn't tell me what I did or what I didn't do. Just hated me for some reason. The other 3 schools loved me. And I worked there for a couple years. And then in the 3rd year, the three schools that loved me were like, we want you to come back. But the 4th school was like, no, we don't want you to come back. And ended up the, what do I call it? Well, the Board of Education, the senior director, talked to them to find out whether or not I would be the person or they were going to have to find someone else. And the board of director decided that, yeah, he's the person. But I was having problems with RCS and their bullshit. Excuse me. Their not so good actions or things that they promised that just weren't true. Lots of promises without any actual follow through. And in the end, I was like, you know what? I would love to work for those schools, but that one school that hates me, I don't want to work there, and I really don't want to work for your company. So I declined and I went somewhere else. And the next job I got was probably the worst job. The worst. It was just a single lady who owned her own school, I had other jobs where I would work for various other companies too in between. So it's not like I was going from one job to another. I had many different English teaching jobs that I was doing, working for a company called OCS, doing business English, working for another lady who had her own school because her husband, who was a foreigner, just up and left one day, and so I was helping her out with her lessons. And okay, so it's just finding jobs. When you're in Japan, it's easier to find a job and get a job than it is when you're not in Japan, obviously. They want to see you, they want to meet you, they want to know that you're a good person, they want to, you know, feel you out, what kind of a personality you have and stuff like that. Are you really fit for the job? And if you're in Japan, it's a lot easier. They feel safer that you're not going to just suddenly not be there one day and go back to wherever you came from. So if you're already in Japan, it's a lot easier to get a job. So like when I got my first visa, it was the reason why I was able to do that was because I was already in Japan. I'd shown all the drive and I did it. I came to Japan on my own. Nobody had to help me, I guess. I mean, I got a loan, and I had to pay that back. But I was able to be in Japan on my own, of my own accord, and that was enough to make them think, well, yeah, he's got enough drive to actually do what he says he's going to do. That helped a lot. Now, if you're in the States and you're trying to come to Japan and you're trying to get a sponsor or something like that, that's going to be really difficult. It's a lot easier if you're already in Japan. So if you want to get a job in Japan, I guess the best way I could say is save up some money and come for a tourist visa. And while you're here, look for a job. And then maybe you'll find a company. Well, you're already here, so this is going to be a lot easier because you're already here. That's what you should do. Otherwise, try a big corporation or a company or an institution like the JET program is really good, but they're going to require that you have a bachelor's degree at least. Most of those companies, if you're not already in Japan, you got to at least have a bachelor's degree. If you already came to Japan, well, you've got half of the step done. All the hard work is really done. So if you're at least capable and competent, they might be able to get you a visa, and a work visa or a sponsorship of some sort. Now, if it's just a small company, they probably can't do that. But if it's a larger corporation or a corporation that has, ties within the Board of Education or whatnot that can vouch for you, then you're more likely to get your sponsorship. Sponsorship isn't just because a company decides they want to sponsor you. They have to prove that you are a person that is worth being sponsored. So, if I'm just one guy who has one place, one school somewhere in the city, that's not really enough clout to be able to say, yes, I can vouch for this person. But if you're a corporation and you're working with many different boards of education and many different schools, then you've got enough clout to say, this is the person that we want. And then the government will be like, okay, well, you've obviously got enough track record and experience to know what is right and what isn't. So that was that. That's how that worked. That's how I came to Japan, and that's how it started. So that's kind of the end of my time for this video. I can talk about more if you want to know. If you have any questions, Mr. DM, did I answer your question? This is really great, really good opportunity for me to talk it out and get it out of my head into words. So I really appreciate that. Thank you. I never imagined that people would actually care and watch and ask me questions when I was doing this. And it's fantastic because it allows me to get these thoughts out of my head in a way that not only helps me, but might help somebody else too. Awesome. I appreciate that. That's really nice. So thank you very much. That's what was in my beard, and we'll see you next time. Bye now.